Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know it's been a long time since I made a video. Life be life sometimes, and I be having shit to do, y'all. So I wanted to kind of do like a welcome back type of thing. My man Ike right here, he had a good idea. So kind of idea we've been trying to do for a while now, which is like a dad type of vibe, co-parenting type of vibe, single dad type of vibe conversation. So I'll let him introduce himself and we get right into it.
Hey, what's going on, people? It's your man Ike, also known as formerly Isaac W. Turner. My man Nick has been talking about podcasting for quite some time, so I'm definitely honored to definitely be on here. Let's get straight into it.
All right, let's dive right into it. So me and you both, bro, me and you both are single dads in a sense, you know what I'm saying? Like we both go through the whole co-parenting you know, I don't know, exercise on a daily. You know what I mean? So,
hmm
give me a little bit of how your experience is so far being a dad. Number one, how do you first feel being a dad, and what has life has been like for you being a dad so far? You're going into year three, so
Yeah. So, being first and foremost, being a father, especially in today's economy, in today's society, it's just, it's a true privilege. I would have to say it's a true privilege. A lot of people have kids, whether it's planned or unplanned. But for me personally, uh, my son was definitely unplanned. It wasn't expected, but you adapt, you evolve, you learn, you take the hardships as hard lessons, and then you continue to, make better choices as you move forward. But ultimately, for me, being a dad is extremely empowering. It definitely allows me to look at life from a different lens, and it allows me to be more patient, to be more understanding, instead of just responding back, automatically based off my experiences. I need to really, be thorough in my thought process and make sure that I'm speaking in a manner that allows my son or even my stepdaughters to, understand the bigger picture.
yeah, no, definitely. I mean, so I guess my next question for you is when Zoe was born, did you feel like that kind of grounded you, or that would ground you a little bit more than say you already wasn't, or probably already was?
For sure, definitely. It definitely grounded me. Being a first parent is, you're never ready. You're never ready. A thousand thoughts are going through your mind, all these questions and concerns. What about this? What about that? But luckily for me, Stacy, being the mother of my child, she's a parent to three beautiful kids, two daughters and her son Zoa. And she's definitely guided me along the way to kind of show me the ropes, teach me what I needed to learn. But it's forced me to, like I said, it's forcing me to take a step back and reevaluate things that were no longer a priority in my life. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now that I have this responsibility as a father, a role model, right, to be a father figure, an ideal father figure, it's forced me to check myself. It's forced me to eliminate certain habits, eliminate certain things in my life that were not applicable to me being the ideal role model for my son.
Yeah, I feel like for me, that's kind of how it was for Tanner, man, when he first came into this world. At the time, being 28, like I didn't feel like I was ready to be nobody's daddy. Like, let
hmm
alone like having any type of like real tools that I was equipped to even be somebody's daddy at the time. Like I was a fresh 28 when he was born. And for the most part, everybody know the story. I had a wife then, and had a baby on her, and then now I have to deal with the consequences of that. Now with along with having to be somebody's daddy who didn't ask to be here. You know what I mean?
hmm
Um, that was for real. That was eye opening because like I didn't know. The only thing I knew at the time for me was I knew what not to do and who not to be because of my fatherhood situation. You know what I'm saying? So like I definitely get it. I feel like Tanner definitely grounded me a lot, and just seeing his maturation through 11 years has been like Awesome. Um, so in your opinion, would you say that, your pops taught you a lot of things, or what do you feel like, you know, you could have probably learned more, or maybe pops could have taught you a little bit more going into fatherhood that you probably just didn't know, if anything?
Well, something that my father could have taught me more. If I'm gonna be blunt, I feel like my dad did everything. He taught me everything he knew. You know, if there was anything that I learned, you know, it's probably because he didn't think of it at the time. You know what I mean? So I personally believe that my dad did the best he could with what he had, with whatever resources it was, whatever knowledge it was. He's provided to me all, and I'm blessed enough to say that. Us as a child, when we judge and view our parents, there's always going to be some form of criticism. And the truth is, we're all imperfect. You know what I mean? We're going to make
Absolutely.
mistakes. I think along the way of becoming a dad and also being a child to my father and watching how he raised me, the one thing I can appreciate is just having the ability to, one, be taught something, right? Having the ability to make a mistake and continue to keep going.
Mm.
And then one thing I wish he would have been able to taught me was having the balances of emotions. You know what I mean? I know he's still learning that at his late age of 70, and we're all imperfect in that aspect of finding a common ground or a balance between a time to be masculine and a time to be feminine. You know what I mean? Just having the ability to recognize those things when it's like, okay, I'm being too hard, or okay, I'm being too soft. And that's, for lack of better words, those are the words that just come to my mind when I think about certain situations. Like the other day, I took Zoe out to the playground, and it was getting dark, and I was like, all right, little man, it's time to head back to the house. And he was just like, well, Dad, I want to stay a little bit longer. In my mind, I'm just like, I'm thinking about me. I'm getting cold.
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm getting cold. It's getting dark. You know what I'm saying? And as simple as it would have been to say no, I had to ask myself, ideally, yes, you don't want to keep a child at a certain age, but we already in the community. We got a park right, like really 2 seconds from the playground.
Yeah.
And I was just like, do I have anything to do? What am I really doing right now at this moment that warrants me to say no? And that's just a small example of just being able to take a moment and step back and be like, you know what? You only going to have a childhood one time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
now that's something that I try to instill in myself on a consistent basis to allow Zoa and his sisters to have an ideal childhood, not allowing them to grow up too fast. You know what I mean? But that's just my 2 cents on
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you on that. I mean, like, we grew up in that time of, like, coming in when the street lights is on, or like just even, like the growing of just being of having like father figures in our life, and just not knowing like that true balance of when to be a man, or then other times of like having to be quote unquote soft, having to talk about your feelings and be involved in your feelings and things like that. So I mean, that was something I had to learn about just through the growing pains of having Tanner. Like it's okay to feel. Like I don't want him to
it.
feel like that he can't feel feelings because he's a man, because that's what society teaches, right? Like a man can't have feelings. You got to just bury everything in. You can't cry. You can't do this. You can't do that. You got to know how to change oil and all the other dumb shit or whatever. Like, and I don't know how to change no fucking oil. So that's some shit I'll never be able to teach him. So, or teach them. But, like just for me, Sylvester, like he wasn't like, I remember growing up, bro. I remember thinking like Sylvester was like Hulk Hogan to me. Like,
Mhm.
because he had the long hair, he had the Jerry curl going on. He still got the Jerry curl, as far as I know. But he got the Jerry curl going on. He was like this big guy, and like he was like a hero to me. Seeing growing up and seeing how he was and things like that, I was like, yeah, like I can't be him. Like I don't know when I'm gonna ever have a kid, but I just know I can't be him. And like I stick to that rule of thumb now for all three of them. I want them to always be better than me. Like I want them to grow up to be like, yeah, daddy did his job. He taught us this, but I need to supersede him, a lot or even a little because I'm not
Hmm.
perfect by no stretch of the imagination. So, but I think with that, it comes with a lot of the tug and pull of the co-parenting aspect as well. Like you having to try to stay on the same page with the mom or moms in my case, stay on the same page with them, but also knowing like y'all have different teachings, but still try to stay in the same teaching realm of like how to raise a black boy. So they kind of segues into my next real question of let me see, 'cause I got them kind of written down. So what do you feel like um for you? What would be a good way? How do you instill good morals into not just Zoe but into the girls as well, values, and like does your upbringing also dictate how you discipline as well?
That's a great question. My biggest, it's not so much a fear, but I'm gonna say it's a fear. One of my fears that I have is my child growing up, one, not loving themselves, two, not having the confidence, and three, negatively talking down on themselves. We as adults and parents, we do it all the time. You trying to lose weight, you look in the mirror, you be like, damn, I done got fat. Or damn, somebody give you a compliment, you be like, oh, you
Yeah.
downplay the compliment. And we do that subconsciously. Like we sometimes we don't even realize how we're saying it, but I'm very cognizant about how I communicate and some of the things that I say around the girls. Not so much little man, but uh the girls. It's no different from a parent being mindful about using expletive language in front of their child. Yeah, you
Hmm.
don't want to curse, but at the same time, sometimes,
You gotta you
hey,
gotta you gotta fucking curse.
yeah, you got to curse. You know what I mean? But I really want them to be able to understand that self-love, having the confidence and the ability to speak life into their own existence. And if they're able to do that, genuinely believe that the rest of the morals and values will eventually follow along naturally. Self-respect applies to self-love. When you love yourself, you naturally treat other people the way you want to be treated.
Absolutely.
If you have the confidence, one biggest thing is being healthy. I know I've been on and off every year. I go on and off, get back in shape, get back chubby again. Had the dad bod. It's part of life. But
Yeah.
just being consistent with myself will hopefully allow them to be consistent with their own self. I mean, like, getting up, they see me do homework, they see me go out to work, they see me go out there and make money, they see me go out there and spoil them, they see me go out to the gym every now and then. All right, I just built my own in-house gym downstairs in the garage, so now whenever they do come over and they see me, I have to make sure I have a consistent regime for them to be able to say that, okay, I watched my dad do this, so perhaps I should do that too.
Yeah.
But obviously, as they get older, they're going to make their own choices and decisions that's going to mold their own morals and values. But the biggest one for me is the self-love, the confidence, and then, of course, just having ultimately self-respect for themselves, and then being a decent human being.
Yeah. Yeah. For real. For real. And that's like the decent human being part, man. Like, that's like one of my biggest messages I have for Tanner, bro. Like, and Grayson, like, he comprehends, but he don't understand on the same level as Tanner because Tanner's older, obviously. But like,
Mm-hmm.
like I always tell them, man, like you don't let nobody like talk to you no type of certain way. Like people gonna talk to you with respect, and then on top of that too, like you have to kind of speak words of affirmation for yourself every day. Like I'm a leader.
Mm-hmm.
I'm smart. I'm this. I'm that. Like positive energy, positive thoughts, and that shit goes a long way for them. I mean, because like I can say for me, like I didn't necessarily get that as a shorty. Like I didn't get like, my mom. Like I'm not saying my mom did a bad job at all, but there could have been things she could have did better. You know what I mean? But like as far as like, Nick, like you are special, you are smart, you are this, you are that. Like it happened, but not as often as say like I do it for mine. But again, it
Right.
all goes back to, not every parent is perfect, because like there's no book for this shit. Like there ain't no book for parenting. Like it ain't no book for that. We always learn as we go, but that consistency of what the kids see is definitely important. Like I say, for me, it's big. I know for mine's, the older two at least, they always, every time I talk to them, you always at work. You always at work, daddy. You either at work or you sleep. Yeah, 'cause that's part of my life.
Like,
You
it's like
know,
I'm prepared.
yeah, I got to do what I got to do. You know what I'm saying? And I think they see that, and it's a good thing, obviously. Like I don't want to always just let them just see like I'm just always at work, and
Hmm.
like there's no in between of that. Instilling good morals, good values, and the discipline aspect of it is definitely, to me, is very, very important, because yeah, I got my ass whooped, and maybe not as much as say like most probably, but I wasn't a bad kid at that either. So
Right.
like I know when to turn it up, and I know when to turn it down when it comes to discipline. So like Tanner, for example, he don't necessarily he doesn't do anything for me like I have to turn up on him, but he understands, even as a young shorty, that if I raise my voice, he already know. All right, let me chill. Grayson's gonna. Oh, he's always been different. Like I gotta put boot to ass with Grayson. And Miles, like I just haven't had that much of an experience with Miles to actually put like to really see like where my levels are with him. But for the most part, like I try not to do all that whooping and all that shit or whatever. Like I kind of think it's like necessary all the time to put boot to ass. Like I can get my point across to you without yelling, without screaming, but me talking to you in a very stern way, we should be good. So now, like, don't get me twisted. Like I had to put boot to ass to Grayson ass last summer, because he has this thing about, I'm not gonna say lying, but he tries to like cover up the truth, and that's, for me, is scary as hell, because they remind me so much of me a little bit. Like I'm not lying, but I'm not telling you the whole truth. And I
Right.
don't like that shit. Like I don't like that at all. So I'm trying to reinvent the wheel with him on like how to discipline
Not
him the
omit.
right way. Yeah.
I definitely agree with that, man. Because I know my girls. The oldest, she's a goody two shoes. She wants to be the good girl, the good dog. The one thing I do know that she needs to improve on is being the big sister, being the big sibling. And I think, not to get off topic, but I noticed through her that she struggles with being patient with
Mm-hmm.
her, with especially her younger sister. Her and little man, they two peas in a pod, man.
Yeah.
But that's because he's only two. He about to be three.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But eventually, I think she struggles with growing up with the responsibility that she thinks is on her, but it's really not.
Yeah.
Because I think she's trying so hard, so much to just do the right thing that is overwhelming her. And I tell her all the time, I say, look, you're not their mother, you're the sister. Now,
Yeah.
if you see them doing something that can cause them harm or harm to others, then okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
and stopped it. But I was like, if they just being silly and annoying,
Let it
you
ride.
have a yeah, let it ride. You have a space to go to. Go to your room. You know what I mean? Put on some headphones. Go do
Yeah.
something that will distract your mind from feeling the need to interject and tell them to shut up. Hey, be quiet. You're annoying. Because now all you're doing is just disturbing the peace yourself.
Facts. For
But
real. For
yeah,
real. For real. So they kind of, because I mean, you mentioned already a couple times about stepdaughters. So kind of segue into the whole aspect of co-parenting, and how's that been for you with, having had been in a relationship with a woman that had two previous kids already, and then now
Hmm.
and then having a biological son between y'all, and you taking on the mantle of being, you know, the girl's dad, basically, or
Hmm.
stepdad. So how has that been for you? Just that as a whole, being a stepdad and just co-parenting as a whole, and how do you and Stacy coexist with that?
Man, I don't know if I got an angel looking after me or whatnot, which I'm sure there's some my family's up there shaking their head, but they looking after me because you know I was extremely nervous and scared. You know what I mean? Afraid for how me and Stacy were going to interact as co-parents.
Yeah,
Right, especially in the beginning when Zola was just born. I didn't know her values. I didn't know what she thought. I didn't know what her religious beliefs were, anything of those nature. Because like I said, we were just cool. We were friends. We were fornicating. You know what I mean? Ultimately, those things came to fruition over time. Those things were revealed over time, and it allowed me to really be thankful for her her guidance as a parent, showing me providing me the opportunity to see areas where she needed to improve, areas where I can implement skills that she may not necessarily have.
yeah,
And I think it's important to recognize your role that you should play, right? When to apply your strength, when to interject to reveal certain areas of improvements where, hey, this is not your strong suit, and it's okay.
hmm,
Allow me the opportunity to assist you. And I think that was the biggest thing for her, was the mentality of having to do it all. You know what I mean? And it took me some, was always on the back end, watching, observing, not really saying much because I didn't feel I had uh, a voice,
yeah,
especially when it came to her daughters. But over time, when we officially got into a relationship, I wanted to instill my own values, instill some form of calmness into the environment where the girls were, because it seemed very chaotic, especially, certain family members. I could sense that the girls were either traumatized or dealt with some form of abandonment, PTSD from their father, especially the eldest one. And then
hmm,
I can sense, an imbalance of just like trust, when it came to both of them. Every time I leave out the door in the middle of the, roughly around close to their bedtime, they be like, "Where you going?" "I'm going to shoot pool with the guys." You
yeah.
know what I'm saying? But every time they question, where you going? What are you doing? What's going on? And, I paid attention to those things to kind of make sure that, hey, I'm being mindful of it, making sure that I'm setting the right example. But it's been a complete honor being in their lives and watching them grow over the last 3 years, 4 years almost. Um, because it's given me perspective and it's taught me and shown me things that I've went through during my childhood and how I can apply something better and for them and
Hmm.
even for Zoa. So it's all, like I said earlier, it's a lesson. Stacy and our co-parenting existence as of right now has been a complete blessing because we're very communicative about what it is that's on our mind. We're very transparent. She tells me things that I might have forgotten, reminds me, and I've gotten a lot better. 'Cause I forget anything,
I
and
know, I know.
I forget anything, and she helps me out. There's been times where we criticize each other, but we've never ever disrespected one another. We've never disrespected one another. We've always been pretty calm for the most part. Um, and even in times where we've had, differences of opinions, she shed a tear, I shed a tear, we hug, we keep it pushing, and that's just what it is. And now that we are in a place where we can truly be co-parents, I think we created something that's very magical because a lot of people don't have that. You know what I mean? She don't have that with her, her daughter's father.
Yeah,
So now, as unfortunate as that reality is with that situation, I'm still glad that he's able to communicate with them now to this day to establish a better relationship with his daughters and including Stacey.
yeah, yeah. And I think for me, bro, I think that's like always kind of been the hard part. Like I just recently posted something on my IG story about like, like how in some co-parent relationships, it's always like one parent that has like full control, and like they're the gay and naysayers, and then the other parents have to just shut the fuck up and just do what the other parent says. So, and I feel like I've been victim of that. I mean, I don't want to say I'm a victim of it, but like I've been a part of that type of cycle where
Mm-hmm.
like, because you're the mom and you may have like the kids are in your care, you have the overall say of like what is and what isn't. And like I've tried to like circumvent that, like having conversations and trying to be more patient and being more understanding and trying to be the bigger adult. Not saying she or they aren't the adult in this situation, or can't, or aren't being an adult in this situation, but like there is like no type of, you know what, Nick, I hear you, and we can and like, we'll move forward with that idea. Or, you know what, you make a great point, I'll do that now, or something like that. It's always just like, you ain't here,
Mm-hmm.
like you ain't you and it don't matter what you say, type of situation. So for you, I'm glad it's never been that type of like chaotic thing. Now, don't get me wrong, Miles' mom, she's great. Like, she doesn't like, we have a good relationship. Like we're cordial, we're good. Like we can joke, but we don't. But only thing she's really asked of me is, just come down here and see him when you can. Like, or if you want us to come up there, just buy out the plane ticket and we'll come up there. So like, it's been it's been good conversations from her, and I guess over like the last year and a half or whatever with Tanner and Great Mom, it's been pretty okay too. Like, I think we're trying to get better when it comes to communicating and trying to really be teammates in this thing and not necessarily adversaries. So I think overall co-parenting has to be healthy. Like, I've even asked the boys, I was like, do you like being separate like this? And they was like, yeah, like it gives me a minute to just kind of be away from mom or whatever. I like the fact that you're in Chicago and I got cousins there, and I can be like, I'm a beard, I can be part of that, be part of the clan and whatnot. Co-parenting can be hard, it can be non-existent, it can be difficult, but I think it's a two-way street. It has to be a dance with both people. Like
Mm-hmm.
both parties have to be like willing and ready of understanding, like, okay, like, yeah, I had a baby with this motherfucker, and that's okay. And we're not together, and that's fine. How do we coexist being two people in two different places, raising one person, or in my case, multiple people? So, I mean, I think for me, it's also like a learning curve, because I tend to be on some, why is it always her way? Why is it always her way? Why can't motherfuckers just listen to me and be like, all right, cool, we gonna do it your way? Why I gotta ask permission to do something or say something or whatever? So I just stay in the shadows for the most part. You know what I'm saying? I just do my thing with the boys. I have my conversation with them. I'm growing my relationship with Miles, or at least trying to grow my relationship with Miles, and just overall just be a better dad with the co-parenting aspect of it. So I definitely get what you're saying.
It's definitely hard. It ain't easy, man. Because a lot of times, man, like I mentioned this before to you and G, I feel like being sometimes being a dad feels like a thankless job.
It's absolutely thankless. It's
You know what I mean?
absolutely thankless.
It feels like a thankless job. Even and not it's not even so much from the kids. It's so much from their mother or whoever you're co-parenting with. It feels
Absolutely.
like, you know what, anything that I compromise to, anything that I express, it almost feels as if like, you know what, well, cool, you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Like, damn,
Yeah.
I just can't get a thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I see what you're doing and I'm grateful for it. Like sometimes, and I'm not saying that has to happen all the time,
No, no.
but at least once or twice, maybe 3 times a year. You know what I mean? I want to be able to recognize and hear that, you know what, my work and my efforts with, being the best father figure and being the best dad I could possibly be won't go in vain, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, man. Like,
especially when trying to teach the values and the morals, coping and balancing potential new relationships, especially if there's areas where there's still unresolved damage, emotional
yeah,
damage.
yeah,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Because oh man, that,
But like that, but that plays a part in it too. I think for me, like in my opinion, at least, I think that plays a part in how I am able to coexist with, with the two women. You know what I mean?
right.
I'm not implying if they ever see this. I'm not implying like they still got, they still home to old hurt or anything like that. But I think the relationships that I went through with them, it still holds some type of weight of like how the day to day is or how our interaction is, and that kind of dictates like how we move forward as being co-parents.
Holding grudges, whether it's in a relationship or you're co-parenting, that can be detrimental to the growth of both parties involved. You
Mm-hmm.
know, that's why I don't never hold grudges like that. Yeah, I could be upset in the moment, but my biggest thing is when you hold on to a grudge, man, that it leaves no room for an opportunity for you to heal, forgive, or whatever you need to do to move forward. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? With that person. Because you know you're going to have to move forward. They're going to be involved. Yeah,
got to be involved. Yeah,
would it feel good to just never see them again and just take care of your family and keep it pushing? Maybe, but at the same time, you can't run from your past. You know what I mean? Your kids are either going to ask questions that's going to that they may want to know. They want to know your history, who you been with, what's going on, why is my last name this last name, your last name different? All those things are factors into understanding that when you hold grudges and you allow yourself to become emotionally affected from yesterday, right?
yeah,
You leaving no room for growth for today or tomorrow.
yeah. I agree with that, and it's funny you talked about the growth aspect because like I said, in the older boy's mom, like we've had you was there from jump with that one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we've had this very treacherous, tumultuous relationship over. I'm gonna say 10 years, 10 or 11. So I'm gonna say 12 years. It was a
Back and
very
forth,
toxic
yeah.
relationship. You know what I'm saying? And I think now, that she and I both have moved on. She's married and happy and all this great stuff, right? Like all this good stuff that I'm happy about her for. And I think now we're starting to really get to a page of like let's really start to co-parent in a teamwork type of way. So like last couple weeks ago, the whole thing with Grayson and the kid at school and everything
Mm-hmm.
like that, and we got through it. You know what I'm saying? I emailed the school. She didn't like that or whatever, but we circumvented it and got through that whole thing. So we had a conversation, and then I text her right after, and I'll read it to you real quick. I was like, as I said before, I'm not there for the day to day activities, and don't have a clue what truly goes on in y'all house, but I know those boys wouldn't be performing as well as they are without help from you/y'all. Thank you for doing your job and more in the constant development of them. I'm proud of them. We got some things to work on for both of them, LOL. But nonetheless, we produce some really great kids. Thank you. And shockingly, her response was, appreciate that. It is a collective effort, and I won't take away from your contributions to their success. We may not agree on everything, but I definitely agree we have some amazing kids for sure. And then we shared like, a couple memes, a couple gifs or whatever. And that was the end of the conversation. It goes back to what you said before about the whole, like the thankless job, but at least give me my flowers once a year. And I ain't talking about on Father's
Mm-hmm.
Day because I ain't gonna get nothing from you from Father's Day. But damn, like just give me my flowers at least once a year. You know what I'm saying? So I definitely get where you coming from, bro. Like I definitely get it. Like it's a hard job being a dad, being a black dad at one. being an active daddy, especially from a distance or even right there in front of the kid's face, like it's a nonstop gig. It's like being on
Mm-hmm.
deployment. It's a every day. I got to ramp up the energy to be somebody's image every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? From my perspective, dog, like, you're doing a great job. You know what I'm saying? Like, you've just came off deployment for the most part, but you made it so that you were able to still be in the same location with Zoe. You know what I'm saying? And still build that relationship. He knows who you are and everything like that. But that connectivity that you have with him is definitely important. And I feel like for me, I need to make that sacrifice as well for when it comes to Miles, because like he was born in June, 3 weeks after Zoe, and then 3 weeks later I was right back out. I was right back on deployment with y'all. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And then we came back in September, and then a month later they moved down to Florida. You know what I'm saying? And that was what, 2022. Out of almost 3 years, I've only seen him, 3 times maybe, and like in person. Like the last time I saw him, it wasn't like the best because like I ended up getting like really, really sick while I was down there with him, and so like that wasn't a good time for the most part. Like I couldn't really do a whole bunch. I was like I got sick. But I'm giving you your flowers, man. Like, you're doing a great job. Like me and G give you shit about the whole, stepdaddy aspect of things. But to take on that mantle, bro, like without no one asking you, no one like making you do it, like you want to do it on your own because you saw like there was a deficiency there, like there was something that was needed there for those girls, and like you don't owe them anything. You choose to obligate yourself to them, more, as a collective unit, not just, hey, yeah, y'all got a brother with me, but I'm only here for him, not y'all. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that aspect of your job, bro. Like I really, really do. So for me to
Thank
you,
you.
if you never
Thank you.
heard me say it, like I thank you for that. It's not a lot of times where the fathers are absent and girls end up being, a certain way in the world because like they didn't have a daddy. And the same way with boys. They act out a certain way or do certain things because they didn't have a father figure or they didn't have a male figure to like show them the right way of things. My hat's off to you. If I had a haircut, I'd actually take my hat off, but I ain't got no haircut.
I'm right there with you, bro. I'm right
Nah,
there
nah,
with
you already know. I look like
you.
Static Shock with my shit.
Everybody know when you got a ball cap on the pod. That's
Wait,
cold for you. Yeah, he.
hey, look, like it's big cold. I got one more question for you, and then we can wrap this up, bro. Um, so what do you feel like? I think we kind of touched on it before, but like, what do you feel like is the pros and cons of the perception of being a black dad?
One, in our community, right? I want to say it's black men are growing, right, with being a participant in this child in their children's lives. You know what I mean? I do want to recognize that, but one of the biggest perceptions that I've always known is one that society puts on us, right? Society is, man, how can I word this? When other ethnicities look at black families, they always question, where's the
The
dad?
dad. Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They always question, where's the dad? Even when I went into, we just moved to California, and I was taking the girls to their school for their orientation to show them around where the class is going to be, and the vice principal asked the girls, who's that man? I don't want to assume that you're the father, but who's that man to y'all? And the girls looked at each other like they didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And at first I was like, you know my name.
Yeah.
Say it. You know what I mean? So my eldest was like, oh, he's our father figure. And then the youngest was like, oh, that's Mr. Isaac. And I was just like, okay. But in the back of my mind, I'm just like, damn, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? People don't want to assume, right, that you're a child's father. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And that's one of the I think it's a con. You know what I mean? I think it's a major con that, you know what I mean, the past actions of fathers and broken families. That's just we're just a byproduct of that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And as much as we're making a tremendous job, doing a tremendous job as a culture, as a community, the African American community, I think we've come a very long way with when it comes to being present in our child's lives. You know what I mean? But when it comes to another perception, how the mothers view us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
mothers, black women, how they view fathers matters. You know what I mean? It matters. I don't think we really talk. I'm sure there's plenty of other podcasts and things like that where people communicate, but you know what I mean? How we're viewed by the child's, mother, their perception of us. You hear it all the time, man, oh, your daddy ain't shit.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
your daddy don't pay no child support. Man, that stuff will scar a child and allow them to view you in that same manner with no evidence whatsoever. And now as they get older, they disrespecting you. They talk to you any kind of way.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now you're trying to fight through all these obstacles and not even knowing where the hell are these obstacles coming from.
Yeah.
Well, who taught you that? Who picked that up? That perception has probably got to be the biggest one. I mean, you automatically got to deal with society's, societal perceptions already, and that's just a gimmick. You know what I mean? But when you have to deal with that when it comes inside the household from their mother, that in itself, I think that hurts more than the societal perceptions that's placed upon us, right? Period.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for real. And kind of to piggyback off that real quick, that's such a Navy term. I don't know why I just said that. Um, like even when I went to the child support court for the oldest, man. Like I get to court and the judge already off rip like wrote me off as like this horrible ass dad. Like, you know, like it was just like her tone, her actions, like how she was moving. It was like I was like some type of deadbeat ass person. When like, lady, these boys were just living with me for a whole year.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they mom couldn't, I'm not gonna put a business out there, but the boys lived with me for a whole year, and so like don't sit here and say, and I enjoyed them living with me. I wanted them to live with me, so don't like put this whole perception of like, oh, you're only here because you ain't doing what you need to do. Like, no, lady, like I do it. I'm a very active parent, very active dad.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm not nobody's father. I'm somebody's daddy. I'm people's daddy, which is two totally different things. So, but I also agree with you with the when it comes to like the how it is, how the perception can be from your relationship is with the children or child's mom, like how they could be detrimental if like y'all not vibing, y'all not in a good space, and they're talking down about you to them, and like the kids don't know, they only going by what the parent is saying. So now their
Mm-hmm.
perception is what they're hearing, and it's not necessarily true because there's always three sides to a story. You know what I'm saying? Her
Mm-hmm.
side, your side, then there's the truth somewhere in between there. So I definitely get what you're saying, man. Like, I think that's a huge con to it, but I think one of the biggest pros with being a black dad, I say for me, is being able to instill good morals, good values, or being a good person to people, like being nice, being kind, being generous, helping out when you can, helping your fellow man out when you man, woman when you can. Like those are things that will help get you further in life than just being like rude and being just a motherfucker to people.
Yeah.
I will never ever tell any of mine at least like the wrong thing. I'll never still steer anybody wrong. Like I think you've been around me long enough to know, like even when it comes down to sailors, like I'm not gonna tell you nothing wrong. I'm not gonna tell you something that I wouldn't do. So it's always about the truth and just doing the right thing for me. And I think that's why at least we've been boys for almost a decade. Almost well over a decade now.
Over a decade, yeah.
So um
2013.
yeah, 2013. So, me and you have always vibed when it came to that type of when it came to that type of energy, when it came to being like just doing what's right. We may have our ways, you know what I'm saying, but we always stuck to one thing, which was doing what's right, and what's morally right by somebody or the right thing So I definitely am appreciative of the friendship, of the brotherhood, of you just being my family, because I think it goes a lot further than just being a friend to me. Like you definitely been, like I said, you've been around since the jump of everything, bro. So you know a lot. You've been around for a lot of things with me, and I mean, same for me when it comes to you. Just man to man, even from a distance. Like I love you. I appreciate the friendship. I appreciate the brotherhood, and cheers to a decade more, bro. So thank you.
Thank you, man. Thank you for having me, man. I love you too, bro. It's
Yeah,
all
man.
love.
So I'll let you go. You know what I'm saying? I gotta get ready to pack. I mean, once this airs on when this airs, I'll already be where I'm at. But
Okay.
I'll let you go, and keep doing what you're doing, man. Like you're doing an excellent job being a dad, not just a stepdad, but just being a dad overall, man. So those girls need it, Zoe need it, and just keep doing what you're doing, man. Like I'm proud of you, and I'm always we talk every day anyway, but I'm always a phone call away when it comes to anything, bro. So if you got any last words, go free ahead and say them, and we get up out of here.
Oh yeah, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate all that. You know, all the compliments. It's been a privilege being in your life and being your friend. Because I never really said this out loud, but there's been a lot of things that I've seen you do. That I've observed, that I've implemented in my own life. I love what you're doing with your sons, Tanner and Grayson and Miles. Because I know it's not easy when it comes to being active in Miles' life. But you've always stuck true to who you are. You always did what you felt was best, and whether you followed your heart and you stuck to the logical aspect of it, you've always maintained your sanity in those aspects, especially when it comes to being a father. And as many times as you just want to goddamn scream into a pillow or punch a hole in the wall, right? You kept your poise. You know what I mean? You kept your poise. You maintained your composure in a lot of situations when it comes to being a father, when it comes to being a friend, when it comes to being you. You know what I mean? All the trials and tribulations that I've watched you endure and go through, you've always came out on top. You know what I mean? And even when some of the scars are still there, you don't allow it to prevent you from evolving. And that's something that I've observed over the years. That I want to continue to implement in my life and for my kids as well. I thank you, brother, and I love you. Hope we have many more opportunities on the podcast. I'm new to this, so
Yeah,
thanks for the
man. Nick,
inspiration.
I appreciate that, man. Last thing I promise, your boy David said this to me like some weeks back. He was like, you remind me of your father. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about? Like, what the fuck you talking about? He was like, God, it was like a whole those, might like go all the way around the world. Then he gets to the point. But he was like,
Yeah.
basically, he was like, you move the same way God does. He's like, I'm not saying you're God, but you move in the same way he does. Like, you're always behind the scenes, making sure people are okay. You reaching out, you trying to help, you trying to do this and do that or whatever. And he was like, he had to talk to Whitney about that. He was like, he witnessed, I guess he had like an epiphany about it or whatever. And he said he told that to Whitney, and so he told it to me, and I was like, well, I'm like, I don't look at myself that way. I'm like, I just try to do what I feel like is just what's right and what's best. You know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? When it comes to friendships, when it comes to, like just the well-being of people. So, I just appreciate, you and even him even saying that about me. 'Cause, I'm just Nick all day. So,
Oh yeah.
I don't try to do nothing crazy or nothing special. I'm just me. Uh but yeah, last thing, like I said, I'll let you go, man. Thank you for joining me on the rebirth of the pod. I swear, audience, I'm gonna get better with the consistency of it. I just been my poise hasn't been as where it needed to be. So, but I promise I'll get better at it. I don't want to hold somebody's blessing away from them anymore. So, Mr. Ike, I'll let you go. Appreciate your time on the pod. Next time it'll probably meet you and G Money on here. And
Yeah,
that
it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun.
that one be fun. So maybe we'll do some. I'll try to cook something up while when he actually import for real for real. So but all right, man, I love you. And until next time, y'all. Peace.